Dorta Hirna, Ganalne for a Corfuing. On Sin a Stur in Norganever, August Nart the Gross of Rona Oring. Honey the Horse Concreha, Onus Goroicha, a Husno Far or Neil Avor, August or Neil Gunair Fasta. August Gur Trade the Correct No for Read, Tre Crea Stardine, Amen. Direct we beseech thee, O Lord, our actions by thy holy inspirations, and carry them on by thy gracious assistance, that every word and work of ours may always begin from thee, and by thee be happily ended, through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you, members. And I now call on the Minister for Finance, Deputy Paschal Donghue, to make his statement. Minister, you have 45 minutes. Thank you.
Budget 2026 will invest in our future while securing the jobs, prosperity and stability of today. It will tackle the serious challenges of meeting our housing and investment needs. At the same time, we are preparing for tomorrow. This budget builds up our resilience and will help us to adapt at a time of historic challenge and change for our economy and our society. This budget is the first of this government's term. We will continue to deliver for our citizens over the course of the next 4 budgets and in the years ahead. Ceann Comhairle, our economy has proven to be remarkably resilient, and this is due to the transformation of our country in recent decades. There are 2.8 million people at work in Ireland today, more than lived here in 1961. People are also living longer and healthier lives than ever before. Life expectancy today is 83 years of age, 10 years above expectations just 4 decades ago. The number of adults with a third-level qualification has tripled in a generation. And we've also made huge progress in restoring our public finances to health. Our debt ratio is moving in the right direction and has almost halved since I delivered my first budget to the House in 2016. Ceann Comhairle, while we should reflect on this progress, of which I believe we can be proud, we also clearly understand that not everyone feels the benefit of this in their daily lives. For many, concerns about their cost of living, about access to a home, remain paramount. To make the case for progress we have made is also to acknowledge that we need to achieve more. And we need to achieve more in a world that is dramatically changing. Ceann Comhairle, the certainties that have underpinned our transformation as a country are now being called into question. Uncertainty is the defining feature of the economy of the world this year. While the international order has been shifting for over a decade, this year saw greater fragmentation as widespread tariffs were introduced. The world has been pulling away from its near universal commitment to free and open trade, a commitment that benefited many. And our fortunes are connected to the world around us. Peace and partnership have been the drivers of our economic and social progress in recent years, and Ireland will always be a global voice for and champion of cooperation and trade. It is regrettable that tariffs were introduced, but the recent EU-US trade agreement is still a better outcome than the alternative of higher tariffs and ultimately even greater uncertainty. Nonetheless, tariffs will, of course, impact growth in the coming years. So the question then arises as to how we respond to this challenge, how we respond to a changing, to a more difficult international environment and rise to these challenges. How do we do this? We do this with a plan to strengthen the resilience we have shown in the past, underpinned by a sensible budget that will safeguard our future. That is how. And it is more pressing than ever that this government presents a budget that protects jobs, that supports growth. My department is projecting modified domestic demand, the best measurement for our domestic economy, to grow by 3.3% this year and by 2.3% next year. Domestic activity is expected to be supported by continued strength in our jobs market, which thankfully has proven to be remarkably resilient to our many and recent shocks. Since the onset of this pandemic, we have added more than 440,000 jobs to our economy. This is a historic achievement by Ireland. It has been driven by record levels of women at work, as well as people coming to work in Ireland. Our strong labour force, the backbone of our economy, is diverse, and there is strength in that diversity. So this budget will protect jobs. It will build on our progress. Looking ahead, we expect to add a further 63,500 jobs by the end of next year, with our economy remaining at full employment in the coming period. Real incomes are also expected to grow, helped by lower inflation, which is forecast to remain at around 2% next year. All of these forecasts have been endorsed by the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council. However, I and the government are still acutely aware that prices remain high. For many necessities, including food, prices are still going in the wrong direction. This budget seeks to address this through targeted supports for those most in need in a way that is affordable for Ireland. And we also need to invest. And this is why the updated National Development Plan, published and delivered by Minister Chambers in July, commits to €275 billion of capital expenditure over the next 10 years. This strategic investment will support our energy, our water, our housing, our transport sectors. These are areas that are critical to making Ireland a better place in which to live and work, while improving the competitiveness of our economy for domestic and for foreign investment. This is about jobs. It's about stability at a time of global challenge. And this investment will not alone increase the potential of our economy, it will boost growth, it will boost job creation in the short and medium term, and this in turn will further safeguard and improve the lives of our citizens. So due to the hard work of the people of Ireland, due to the right policy choices, the government is in a strong position to be able to protect our economy and the public services that underpin it. Our public finances are in good shape. Today's budgetary package is €9.4 billion, as set out in the summer economic statement. €8.1 billion will be allocated for public spending, and €1.3 billion will be allocated for taxation measures. I have reduced the tax package by €150 million to facilitate additional spending in targeted supports for the most vulnerable, while maintaining an unchanged total budgetary package. We must continue to control the rate of day-to-day spending on a level that is safe and affordable, one that reflects the reality of where we are today. Inflation has moderated. The size of our budgets must moderate too. And every budget is about choices. No budget can do everything, nor should it attempt to. The one-off measures of recent years must be replaced by more targeted, by more permanent supports, given greater certainty to people. So Minister Chambers and I are making the best possible use of the resources available to invest in our future, to strengthen our foundations. Similarly, we should have a tax package that does not put our economy at risk. And to safeguard against that risk, we are running budget surpluses, reducing public debt, and building up funds so that we are prepared for the future. We have run government surpluses over the last 3 years. For this year, the surplus will be €10.2 billion, and next year the surplus will be €5.1 billion. The debt to GNI star ratio, the way we measure the ability of our economy to sustain a certain level of debt, has now declined by more than 40 percentage points relative to the pandemic-related peak. And the government will submit a medium-term fiscal and structural plan to the European Commission in the coming weeks to ensure, like all EU countries, that this and future budgets are sustainable, they're affordable, and that they keep our public finances and our people safe. Our corporation tax revenues have allowed us to respond to challenges, such as the pandemic and the cost of living challenge. But we all know the degree of volatility in these receipts. We know over-reliance is a risk. In addition, international tax negotiations to design a system that achieve a fair and balanced approach to global minimum taxation, and one that accommodates the US tax system while maintaining a level playing field for all, are still ongoing. There is still considerable uncertainty. That is why, Count Corley, we continue to put money aside in the two long-term savings funds: the Future Ireland Fund, the Infrastructure, Climate and Nature Fund, to help us deal with the demographic and the structural challenges that may await, and the challenges we may not yet be aware of. And that is why, by the end of next year, my department projects that these funds will have built up to around €24 billion, an investment to protect future generations. By the end of this government's term, we expect to have more than €40 billion built up in these long-term funds. And this will allow us to face the challenges of the future from the best possible position. However, we must also be conscious of the challenges we face today, first among them being housing. And in preparing this budget, it has been to the forefront of our minds. For first-time buyers, for aspiring homeowners, for those attempting to negotiate and navigate the rental market, increasing supply is key. The government is determined to use all the policies at our disposal to increase supply, to alleviate pressure, so that more people can have access to a home. And that is why we have committed over €5 billion in capital investment for housing delivery next year, and that is in addition to the investment by the Land Development Agency and by approved housing bodies. We have legislated for the biggest changes to the planning system for a generation. We are implementing the national planning framework so that homes are built where they are needed, and we have made significant changes to the design of homes to help them become more affordable. Home Building Finance Ireland also provides finance to home builders across the country, and additional funding will be made available to SMEs. To ensure they have the capacity to fund such homeowners, I've consented to €200 million of additional external funding to support this objective. And I've also considered how our tax system can support additional supply, promote regeneration and tackle dereliction. Firstly, I am reducing the VAT rate as applies to the sale of completed apartments to 9% from 13.5%, effective from tonight, until the 31st of December 2030. This is to help address the viability gap in apartment construction as part of a social policy to deliver more and higher density apartments, and I will introduce a financial resolution to give effect to this decision this evening. The residential zoned land tax introduced in Budget 2022 came into effect on the 1st of February 2025. This was designed to increase the national stock, the amount of zoned and serviced land to deliver homes across our country. So far, there have almost been 2,000 returns filed. Of these, 526 have requested the deferral of land because the land has been actively developed within planning timelines, and this shows that the objective of the tax is being met. And today, I'm announcing another opportunity for landowners to avail of an exemption in 2026 if they seek to have their land rezoned to reflect the genuine economic activity being carried out. The exemption will be considered by local authorities based on guidelines by the Minister for Housing, Local Government and Heritage, and further changes to enhance the operation of the tax will be brought forward in the Finance Bill. In line with the Government's commitment to accelerate the delivery of affordable homes, I am exempting the rental profits arising from homes that fall within the cost rental scheme from corporation tax. This exemption will apply to all developments that are designated as falling within the cost rental scheme by the Minister for Housing, Local Government and Heritage from on or after the 8th of October 2025. To further incentivise the provision of new homes, I'm also introducing an enhanced corporate tax deduction for certain costs incurred on the construction of apartment developments and for the conversion of non-residential buildings into apartments. This is to improve the viability of these developments. It will be available for projects where a commencement notice is submitted on or after the 8th of October 2025 and on or before the 31st of December 2030. Turning now to our larger cities, the Living City Initiative supports the enhancement of older housing and commercial properties in the designated special regeneration areas in Cork, Dublin, Galway, Kilkenny, Limerick and Waterford. I am making the following substantial changes to strengthen the scheme. I am extending it to the end of 2030. I am increasing its scope for residential properties from those built before 1915 to those built before 1975. Furthermore, I am amending the scheme to support the use of over-the-shop premises for residential purposes. Where the works are carried out by enterprises, the maximum amount of relief available will be increased from €200,000 to €300,000, and I'm providing greater flexibility on the time period over which the relief can be claimed. And finally, over the coming period, I plan to add the 5 regional centres under the National Planning Framework to the scheme. These are Athlone, Drogheda, Dundalk, Letterkenny and Sligo. Adding these special regeneration areas to these towns will require careful planning and preparation by the relevant local authorities. And we're also aware that dereliction continues to be a blight on our towns and cities. We need to bring those properties currently lying empty back into use. To target the activation of this housing stock and in an attempt to breathe new life back into those towns and villages, I am today announcing the introduction of a new derelict property tax which will be implemented and collected by the Revenue Commissioners. With the agreement of the Minister for Housing, this new tax will replace the derelict site levy, which is currently charged at a rate of 7% on the site market value. I do not intend for the new tax to be charged at a lower rate than this. I intend to bring forward legislation providing for the derelict property tax in 2026. Preliminary registers of dereliction will be published in 2027, and the tax will be implemented as soon as possible after that date. The Residential Development Stamp Duty Refund Scheme is due to expire at the end of this year. In the Finance Bill, I will extend it until the end of 2030. This provides for a partial repayment of the stamp duty paid on a deed of conveyance or transfer of land where the land is subsequently developed for residential purposes. And to improve its effectiveness, I'm also making a number of changes to the scheme, including extending the 2 time limits that apply for acquisition to commencement and commencement to completion from 30 months to 36 months, where an application for a stamp duty refund is made in respect of a large-scale residential development. And I'm also providing for a full stamp duty refund to be claimed in respect of a multi-phase development at the commencement of the first phase of that development. And then to continue supporting the upgrading of rental housing stock, I will be rolling over the income tax deduction for small landlords who retrofit their properties for a further 3 years. These measures are designed to encourage more stock into our housing market and to support the development of more and higher quality homes. As I have said previously, budgets are indeed about choices. This budget boosts our economic resilience and keeps our public finances safe. It maintains our competitiveness and ability to protect jobs, and it also means the challenges we face in housing and investment can be delivered for households and businesses across the country. The scope for significant personal tax changes is therefore limited. Government is committed to measures that will improve the overall standard of living with a focus on affordable and permanent changes in the budget. However, over the lifetime of this government, I will stand by our commitment to make progressive changes to income tax if and when our economy remains strong. Today I am announcing targeted changes to USC. As of the 1st of January of 2026, the national minimum wage will increase by 65 cents per hour to €14.15 per hour. Accordingly, I will be increasing the ceiling for the 2% rate band by €1,318 to €28,700. This increase will ensure that full-time workers on the minimum wage will remain outside of the top rate of USC, while also giving a modest benefit to all workers whose income is above that amount. I'm also extending the USC concession that applies to those who have a full medical card and earn less than €60,000 per year, so that the reduced rate of USC continues to apply for a further 2 years until the end of 2027. Where our renters are concerned, I am conscious of the cost pressures that are faced by so many individuals and families. The rent tax credit was introduced in Budget 2023 and has proven to be a very meaningful support for renters, with almost 400,000 people benefiting from it in 2023. The credit is due to expire at the end of this year. I am announcing that I am extending it for a further 3 years to the end of 2028 in a bid to alleviate the pressure through what is an important tax measure for many. To support homeowners, I am extending the mortgage interest tax relief for a further 2 years, with a reduced value applying in the final year, and then conscious of the fact that energy prices remain high, I am extending the 9% rate of VAT on gas and electricity bills until the 31st of December 2030, with a financial resolution on this matter later this evening. This should go some way to alleviating the energy cost pressures across the year for households. Turning to our businesses, the government has been proactive in its reaction to the challenging global environment. Along with our EU partners, we are committed to unlocking the potential of the EU single market, which offers enormous opportunities. In February of this year, the Taoiseach convened the first meeting of the Government Trade Forum to help us better understand the changing trade landscape, which impacts on many firms in many different sectors. And building on this, the recently published Government Action Plan on Market Diversification and the Action Plan on Competitiveness and Productivity lay out our strategy for ensuring the resilience of our economy while boosting further competitiveness. And this budget represents a significant intervention by the government to protect these jobs and businesses and to support them in the future. In line with the commitment in the programme for government to further support businesses and help them retain jobs, I am reducing the VAT rate from 13.5% to 9% on food and catering businesses and for hairdressing services. The measure will come into effect on the 1st of July of 2026. This will cost €232 million in 2026 and €681 million in a full year. It reflects our commitment to support businesses in the service sector who are facing increased cost pressures. And furthermore, it will support more than 150,000 jobs in these sectors right across the country. As a key driver of economic growth and high-value employment, research and development supports are critical to our continuing competitiveness in a changing global environment. And recognising this, and following a review undertaken by my department this year, I am making several improvements to the regime, including increasing the rate of the credit from 30% to 35% and increasing the first-year payment threshold from €75,000 to €87,500 to support smaller research and development projects. I will also be publishing a research and development compass in the coming weeks, which will consider targeted changes to the research and development tax credit to better align with industry practices, for example, in the areas of outsourcing and qualifying expenditure definitions. It will also set out a pathway for the development of innovation supports. I am also committed to delivering tax simplification for businesses. Last year, a participation exemption for foreign dividends was introduced to simplify double tax relief and to enhance our competitiveness for multinational companies. I will be enhancing those rules by expanding their geographic scope to include jurisdictions where non-refundable withholding taxes apply and to provide for a number of technical amendments to improve the operation of the scheme. And on that theme of competitiveness, it is crucial that our tax code is attractive to investment and is aligned with international best practice. And accordingly, I'm publishing an action plan today to reform our tax regime for interest. It is informed by responses received to an extensive consultation on the tax treatment of interest in Ireland. The primary request arising from that consultation is for a fundamental reform of the underlying framework for the taxation and deductibility of interest. The phased approach of the plan will progress reforms to achieve a simplified regime that supports competitiveness and protects our tax base. And in this regard, a feedback statement will be published in November for further consultation. To respond to specific competitive challenges being faced by the visual effects sector, I'm today announcing an improvement to the Section 481 film tax credit to provide for a new 40% rate of relief for productions with a minimum of €1 million of eligible expenditure on relevant visual effects work. This rate will apply up to a maximum of €10 million per production. We've also seen the creativity, the success of our digital games sector. To provide certainty to that sector, to encourage its continued growth, I'm extending the digital games tax credit for 6 years to the 31st of December 2031. The credit will also allow for claims in respect of post-release content work where the original game availed of the digital games tax credit. And further detail of this will be in the Finance Bill. As the proposed changes to the visual effects and digital games incentives are approved state aids, they will be notified to the European Commission and introduced subject to commencement orders. We also know that entrepreneurs are vital to the creation of jobs, to supporting economic activity across the country. The government is maintaining and committed to maintaining a tax system that supports them. I am enhancing the existing capital gains tax revised entrepreneurial relief by increasing the lifetime limit on gains to which the relief applies from 1 million to 1.5 million for disposals made from the 1st of January of 2026. The change will help ensure the capital gains tax system supports entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their business and take on new challenges. The key employee engagement programme is also due to expire at the end of 2025, and following engagement with stakeholders in relation to the scheme, I will extend it to the end of 2028, subject to approval from the European Commission. I've also spoken about the impact that foreign direct investment plays in our economy through the creation of employment, through the expansion of businesses. I'm therefore extending the Special Assignee Relief Programme for 5 years, while also increasing the minimum qualifying income to €125,000 to ensure the relief is appropriately calibrated. I will also simplify the administrative requirements and will set that out in the Finance Bill. As an open economy, our economy is deeply integrated into global trade flows. We are exposed to external economic downturns or volatility. The Foreign Affairs deduction is an important incentive for employees that support Irish firms in exploring and expanding into new markets. I will extend the scheme for a further 5 years, and I'm also increasing the level of relief available to €50,000 and extending the scheme to include the Philippines and Turkey. Recently agreed changes to EU VAT law will reshape our VAT administration environment to better recognise and facilitate how we trade, while strengthening the capacity of tax systems across the EU to tackle VAT laws. So to that end, the Revenue Commissioners will begin a phased rollout of domestic electronic invoicing arrangements for business-to-business transactions, and they will publish further details of this tomorrow. Withholding taxes are also an important feature of our tax system, and I want to explore opportunities to modernise them, to digitalise them, and to further expand their scope as we continue to adopt and respond to new and developing business models. A joint public consultation on this topic between the Department of Finance and Revenue will be launched soon. All of these measures will contribute to the creation, to the retention of jobs, and better use of our savings can also contribute to this objective. The EU Savings and Investment Union aims to make it easier, safer and cheaper for people to invest. This gives citizens a better return. It helps them to fund businesses that can grow. And in recognition of the importance of encouraging retail investment, Today, I am reducing the tax rate that applies to Irish and equivalent offshore funds and foreign life assurance products from 41% to 38%. Reflecting the complexity of the tax framework for retail investment and to facilitate due consideration of the Fund Sector 2030 report, I will publish a roadmap early next year, setting out how we will simplify, how we will adopt the tax framework to encourage investment. It will take into account the recent European Commission recommendation on savings and investment accounts. And of course, we will do this as Ireland is in a leading position in the investment funds and asset management industry globally, a sector that supports almost 37,500 jobs across our country, and we will publish an implementation plan for this sector today. That report recommended a public consultation on potential options for an entity-level tax for IRFs. I do not propose to progress that recommendation. However, my department will undertake a public consultation on proposals to simplify the IRF regime without limiting its effectiveness. And in order to support these capital markets, I'm introducing a new market cap exemption stamp duty threshold of €1 billion for Irish SMEs and start-ups trading on regulated markets. For companies below this threshold, the 1% stamp duty charge paid on share transactions will not apply. This change is essential to the growth of homegrown businesses, especially those that want to grow internationally. And finally, I believe that it remains appropriate that the banking sector continues to make a contribution to the Irish economy. Therefore, I am extending the bank levy for one further year with a target yield of €200 million. So I've acknowledged that domestic and foreign investment are key to our economic growth, and so too is the success of our farming sector. I want to acknowledge the report of the Commission on generational renewal in farming. This report looked at farm succession in particular and made a series of recommendations, including the extension of 4 tax relief schemes that are specific to this sector, which were due to end this year. I have considered this matter and have decided to extend the Farm Consolidation Stamp Duty Relief, the Farm Restructuring CGT Relief, and the Young Trained Farmer Stamp Duty Relief to the end of 2029, and I'm also expanding the scope of farm restructuring relief to include woodlands and forestry. And in addition, in order to continue to help farmers meet their emissions targets and to address our shared environmental challenges, I'm announcing an extension of the Accelerated Capital Allowance Scheme for slurry storage facilities for 4 more years. And it continues to be important that these measures constitute state aid and therefore must comply with state aid rules. In support of climate policy, Finance Act 2020 legislated for annual increases in carbon tax out to 2030. This year's increase, which brings the tax to €71 per tonne of CO2 emitted, will be applied to auto fuels with effect from tomorrow and all other fuels from the 1st of May 2026. The additional revenue arising from the carbon tax increase is estimated at €121 million in 2026 and a full-year additional yield of €157 million. And these measures will be ring-fenced to ensure that carbon tax policy is progressive. We will spend this revenue on social welfare measures and other measures to prevent fuel poverty, to ensure a just transition, and indeed also a socially progressive national retrofitting programme to encourage also and to support our farmers to farm in a greener and more sustainable way. For example, the allocation of the Warmer Home Scheme, which provides completely funded retrofits to low-income households, has seen an 11-fold increase to where we were in 2020. We're also making huge progress on solar generation. Today, there are over 140,000 households with solar PV installed, providing greater energy affordability for those homes, both by reducing their own energy demand and by allowing them to sell excess energy into the grid. In support of increasing the number of electric vehicles on our roads, I'm extending the €5,000 VAT relief for electric vehicles for a further year until the 31st of December 2026. And in relation to the benefit in kind regime for company cars, I am extending on a tapered basis the universal relief on the original market value of a vehicle, which was first introduced as a temporary measure in 2023. The relief will remain at €10,000 in 2026. It will reduce to €5,000 in 2027 and €2,500 in 2028, being abolished in 2029. I'm also creating a new vehicle category for zero-emission cars only, where the lowest BIK rates will apply. To encourage further capital investment to help deliver a reduction in emissions, I am extending the accelerated capital allowances scheme for energy-efficient equipment and for gas vehicles and refuelling equipment for a further 5 years until the 31st of December 2030, and to help as many citizens as possible to play a role in the energy transition, I am extending the income tax disregard of €400 for income received by households who sell electricity from microgeneration back to the grid for a further 3 years to the end of 2028. Moving on to other measures. The new Gambling Regulatory Authority will be responsible for licensing and supervising the betting sector. Pool betting is responsible for just 2 entities currently, but under the new regime, a wide range of licence holders may be authorised to engage in pool betting. I'm concerned that betting operators may be incentivised to modify their business structures to avoid liability for betting duty, so I will legislate in Budget 2027 for a separate pool betting duty charge. This will provide time for engagement between my department and relevant stakeholders on the design and the structure of that duty. And to support public health policy to reduce smoking in Irish society, I'm increasing excise duty on a pack of 20 cigarettes by 50 cents, with a pro-rata increase in other tobacco products. So, Ceann Comhairle, overall, our public finances are in good shape. Our employment is at a historically high level. Our schools, our hospitals, our public services are responsible for so much good in our society. But we must build more homes. We must help those who need our help in a more targeted way. Minister Chambers and I make the case for that in this budget, for a budget that builds on what is good in our economy to achieve more for our country and for its citizens today and in the future. This budget will boost our resilience. It will protect jobs. It puts us in the best possible position to create a stronger and a more competitive economy while meeting the needs of our people today and in the time to come. To achieve this, a budget must make choices. Any budget that attempts to achieve everything in a single go weakens our ability to be safe in a turbulent world. That's why we make the case for running budget surpluses, for setting up funds for the future, not for some abstract reasons, but because this approach gave us the ability to help in the toughest of moments in recent years. And it will do so again. That is why we have to strike the right balance between increasing investment and moderating the growth in day-to-day spending. That is why our tax changes must be of a certain value and no more. And that is why now is the time to steady ourselves on the path for the future. In this and in future budgets, Minister Chambers and I, with the Taoiseach Cantáiste and independent colleagues, will continue to stay on the path to support growth, to maintain safe public finances. And we will do this because this, in turn, offers the best protection, the best support for our people. And through our investment in people, in jobs, in homes, we are determined to meet the challenges that we face today and to realise our hopes and our ambitions for tomorrow. I commend Budget 2026 to Dáil Éireann.
Thank you, Minister. And I now call on the Minister for Public Expenditure, Jack Chambers, to make his statement. Thank you, Minister.
Ceann Comhairle. Thomas ag teacht I dtír le fada na buntáistí a bhaineann le Gallagher oscailte so agrú le bheith gcuin. Cé go bhónann sin go maithúin mar thír ní mór dúin aig go háirt an timpachach na míoch agus folatúil atá ag titim amach níos fuide. Tá ór na chanúna búlsa le héireann. Beag tioncar ag an mealach a ranamid le hin níos tíocht a dhéanamh inar gcuid gnóthaí ach na míochta inniu, mar aon leis an gcuí a dhéanamid na gnóthaí ach na míocha sinna fleanáil agus a bhainistú an tír seo go gceann na deithineanna na bhlianta. Ceann Comhairle, for a long time we've traded on our advantages as a small, open, agile economy. While this continues to serve us well as a country, we must take every opportunity to strengthen the foundations of our economy and of our society. Ireland stands at a crossroads. How we choose to invest, plan and manage our economic affairs today will shape our country's future. Budget 2026, the first in this government's term, represents an opportunity for a renewed economic fiscal approach, an approach that places the long-term development of our country at its heart and that strives to deliver better outcomes for all. To improve people's lives, we need to ensure that the decisions we make today are grounded in the best interests of our nation. Our vision is to create a thriving country where enterprise can flourish and people feel valued regardless of background, ethnicity, sexuality or gender. This is our opportunity to be a caring country defined by stability, tolerance and progress for those who were born here and those who have chosen to make Ireland their home. We must challenge the voices who try to use diversity to divide us. Instead, we will continue to celebrate the differences that elevate our cultural identity and our national heritage. This is the flag we must fly, moving forward together. In the face of many threats over recent years, our economy and our people have been remarkably resilient. While there are challenges that we've yet to overcome, it's important to acknowledge that Ireland is a successful country. We have a strong economy with over 2.8 million people in employment. We have high living standards, long life expectancy, excellent educational outcomes, and a progressive system of social supports that work to ensure that the most vulnerable are protected. We must safeguard what we have worked so hard to build while striving to become more competitive, protect jobs and create new ones, investing, building more homes and excel as a country that is open for business, open for investment and open for opportunity. Lagan an buséid an lé inniu bunsra síos don na blianta atá amachróin. Tá ómis an deis inis tógáil an runse sin watha le todhchaí rathúil a chinsú de bhuintear na hÉireann. Today's budget lays the foundations for our future. It shifts the focus from isolated departmental or sectoral needs to our country's broader strategic priorities, considering the trade-offs and choices we'll face along the way. Reforming how we spend public money must be a priority. This is a key focus for me as a minister and for this government. It has been central in all my discussions with all ministers through 2025 and in settling departmental allocations for 2026. This government has taken the decision to moderate spending increases, providing more targeted and permanent measures, making the best use of the resources that are available to us. We're doing this to secure the long-term sustainability of the public finances. The programme for government is clear in its ambition to secure our country's future, and today's budget is an important milestone on this journey. While we cannot do everything in a single budget, the allocations I'm setting out today will deliver permanent impacts that make a positive difference to people's lives while also investing at record levels in our future. Budget 2026 is built on 3 priorities. First, we will ramp up our investment in vital infrastructure, which will boost productivity, protect jobs and support long-term growth. Second, we will make targeted improvements to public services, making sure they are reliable, accessible and efficient. And third, as set out by Minister Donghue, we will strengthen our economic foundations so we are better prepared to weather future uncertainties. To support delivery of these priorities, I'm allocating €116.8 billion in 2026, an €8.1 billion increase on this year's allocation. An additional €6.1 billion will be allocated for current expenditure, with the budget for capital projects increasing by €2 billion. The current expenditure package will provide €2 billion for social protection to provide for our growing population, expand existing schemes and deliver a series of targeted new measures. €1.5 billion for health to hire more frontline staff and enhance the level of service that is being provided for. €1.2 billion for public service pay agreements, and a further €1.4 billion is being provided to broaden supports across many sectors. Overall, this will support an increase of 12,500 staff to deliver services directly to the public, including 3,370 in the health sector, 2,600 in the education sector and up to 1,000 in An Garda Síochána. I will also be setting aside €1 billion in a contingency reserve to be held centrally. This will allow us to respond to exceptional in-year expenditure pressures in 2026 and will fund elements of the costs related to Ireland hosting the EU presidency. 100 years ago this year, a fledgling state showed ambition and action. At that time, Ireland faced a very different set of challenges, a young state with scarce resources emerging from war and conflict. And yet the state had the courage to commit 20% of its national budget to build Ardnacrusha, one of the most ambitious engineering projects in the world at that time. In the way Ardnacrusha transformed the state then, we're again at the beginning of an infrastructure revolution that will require that bold ambition. We must embrace this opportunity with the belief and the confidence that we can shape the destiny of the next generation. This is our duty to the children born here today. We must confront head-on the systems and mindsets that have made delivery so difficult. Without change, we will see critical shortages of power and water within a few years. Congestion on transport networks will grow. Our ability to deliver more homes will be impacted, as will opportunities for investment and job creation. To address our country's infrastructure deficit, we must be prepared to radically overhaul how we deliver public projects. Next month, I will publish a detailed action plan to tackle these barriers of delivery. This will include plans to progress legislative reforms to strike a better balance between the rights of individuals and the public good, simplify regulation and consenting systems to make it easier to deliver projects, reduce the administrative burden and cut the red tape of our rules and guidelines so that our systems are not delaying much needed investment. Alongside these reforms, I've provided record levels of funding through the recent National Development Plan, the largest capital investment plan in the history of this state. Through this plan, Government will provide €275 billion over the period to 2035, prioritising funding for water, energy and transport, the building blocks to deliver more homes. In 2026, I will allocate €19.1 billion for capital investment, an increase of €2 billion on 2025. This will provide funding to progress thousands of new build social homes, major water infrastructure projects and flood relief schemes, build sustainability and resilience in our electricity grid and boost our electricity supply, and major projects across the transport, health, education, justice and arts sectors. Details of specific projects to be delivered in 2026 will be announced shortly, with sectoral investment plans for the next 5 years to be published by departments in the coming weeks. It's critical that we deliver these investments. The urgency with which we need to make progress can so clearly be seen when we look at housing. At Concorla, this government's absolute priority is to strengthen the foundations for housing delivery and build more homes for our people. In 2026, I'm allocating a total of €11.3 billion in funding to the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage. Almost €2 billion of this funding will continue to meet the social housing needs of over 100,000 households through the housing assistance, rental accommodation and social housing current expenditure schemes. Within this, I'm allocating €7.2 billion in capital funding, the largest ever such allocation for housing. This will include €2.9 billion to support the delivery of thousands of new build social homes and the second-hand acquisitions programme, €1.2 billion for the Starter Homes programme to deliver thousands of starter homes through a range of affordability supports alongside the Help to Buy initiative. €300 million will support the regeneration of our towns and urban areas through the Urban Regeneration Development Fund. €205 million will be allocated to a new housing activation infrastructure fund to support the work of the new Housing Activation Office. €140 million being allocated to retrofit further social homes, and €130 million will fund up to 17,000 adaptation grants of homes for older people and people with a disability. These measures, in addition to the tax changes just set out by Minister Donghue, will make a real difference in the delivery of housing across our country. But to build these homes, we need to provide the critical building blocks of water and energy. In the National Development Plan, I've committed to providing €12.2 billion in capital funding to expand our water and wastewater services. Following through on this commitment in 2026, I'm providing €1.4 billion to Uisce to continue to build essential capacity to support new housing developments and to increase the resilience and sustainability of water supply. This will help to further progress the development of wastewater treatment plants right across the country. I'm providing €3.5 billion to ESB and EirGrid to strengthen our energy security and accelerate our transition to renewable energy. Building on this, I'm allocating €1.1 billion to the Department of Climate, Energy and the Environment in 2026. This includes €558 million in carbon tax revenue for residential and community energy upgrade schemes. Continued investment in the retrofit of public buildings to support the delivery of our national retrofit plan, €209 million for the Climate Action and Environmental Leadership Programme to support our climate objectives and enhance biodiversity. Within this, €82 million has been prioritised to support a just transition for the wider Midlands region. Projects include decarbonising rural bus routes, support for private bus operators to transition to electric vehicles, wetland restoration and support for nature and biodiversity. Just as our investment in energy lays the foundation for a sustainable future, our approach to transport must ensure that this future is accessible to all. Our country's progress is driven by connectivity. Modern, efficient and effective transport systems unlock the full potential of our towns, cities and communities. Today I'm announcing a €4.7 billion allocation to the Department of Transport for 2026. This includes €940 million for a public transport public service obligation to support our public transport network, connecting communities and people's access to education, work and leisure. We will also continue the rollout of the DART Plus programme and Bus Connect programmes in Dublin and our regional cities, including the construction of 2 core bus corridors in Dublin, the Cork Area Commuter Rail Phase 1 and the Enterprise Fleet Replacement projects. Several major road projects, including the Adair Bypass, the N5 Balhadreen to Scramogue and the M28 to Cork to Ringaskiddy, and a major investment of greenway and active travel projects will be funded and developed in 2026. We will also continue to invest in aviation and maritime connectivity and to provide a world-class search and rescue service through the Irish Coast Guard. Additionally, as outlined in the National Development Plan this year, €2 billion from the Infrastructure, Climate and Nature Fund is being allocated to progress Metrolink. Planning for this transformational project has been approved. Now it's time to deliver. As our infrastructure brings us closer together as a country, our public services bind us as a society. The strength of our public services and what we choose to prioritise is a statement about what we value as a people, and Ireland has a social welfare system that protects the most vulnerable, an education system that consistently delivers talent, and a health service that contributes significantly to improved health outcomes for many people. This progress has been delivered through consistent investment and targeted decision-making across many years, and has raised the standards and expectations for what can be delivered. While it's important to acknowledge what works well, we must continue to focus on improving our systems of social support. The Government cares about our people and has designed a progressive budget that delivers permanent and targeted social welfare measures that will shield the most vulnerable against cost of living rises. Ceann Comhairle, I'm pleased to be able to provide for a Christmas bonus for 1.5 million recipients of long-term social welfare schemes this year. This will be paid at a rate of 100% of the normal weekly payment and will provide much-needed support to families over this seasonal period. Next year, I'm allocating €28.9 billion to the Department of Social Protection, an increase of over €2 billion. This allocation allows me to provide an increase of €10 per week for a person receiving a weekly social protection payment. This will benefit 1.5 million recipients, including pensioners, people with disabilities, carers, job seekers and lone parents. To support people with disabilities and carers, I'm increasing the carers allowance income disregard to €1,000 for a single person and €2,000 for a couple. I'm also increasing the rate of domiciliary care allowance by €20 per month to €380 per month. In the programme for government, we have committed to lift more children out of poverty. Guided by a new child poverty target of no more than 3% of children living in consistent poverty by 2030, a multi-year programme of supports begins today. I'm happy to announce a €300 million package of supports for children and families. As part of this, I'm increasing the weekly rates of the child support payment by €8 for children under 12 and by €16 for children over 12, the largest ever increase in this rate. This will bring the weekly payment to €58 for children under 12 and €78 for children over 12. I'm also increasing the working family payment to income thresholds by €60 per week for all families. I'm also extending the back-to-school clothing and footwear payment to 2- and 3-year-olds. To support those at risk of energy poverty, I'm increasing the weekly fuel allowance rate by €5 to €38, and following the recommendations of the National Energy Affordability Task Force, I'm also extending fuel allowance eligibility to all households in receipt of the working family payment. This will help protect around 50,000 families from energy poverty. Alongside these new measures, the 2026 allocation for the Department will provide an additional 30,000 recipients on pensions, illness, disability and carer schemes. The full-year cost of job seekers' pay-related benefit introduced earlier this year, and continued support for over 50,000 beneficiaries of temporary protection from Ukraine, including lone parents, pensioners and other vulnerable cohorts. In addition to this substantial social welfare package, the State will also deliver one of the most significant reforms in our history through the introduction of pension auto-enrolment from January 1st, 2026. My Future Fund is designed to support workers who are not currently part of any pension plan. Over time, it's expected to benefit around 750,000 people, securing a higher income in retirement for workers. These measures ensure that we improve the lives of our people through sustained investment and better public services. One of the most essential services provided by the State is our public health system, which safeguards the well-being of individuals, families and communities right across the country. 2026 will see a total funding package of €27.4 billion going to the Department of Health. This record level of investment will deliver an increase in acute hospital capacity of at least 220 beds, and the expansion of diagnostic services, at least 280 community beds, continued investment in the community nursing units refurbishment programme and reductions in community waiting lists, an additional 1.7 million home support hours, 500 more nursing home places, increased staffing and expansion of mental health services, including suicide prevention, increased access to CAM services and traveller mental health initiatives, and enhanced community and primary care services, including the rollout of the new pharmacy contract. The value of this record level of investment needs to be fully realised, with a focus on productivity, efficiency and better financial governance. These changes will create the basis to establish a more multi-annual structure of funding our health system. Accordingly, this year's significant funding allocation will be accompanied by a programme of progressive reform in our health system. These include the ongoing decentralisation of service provision through the new regional health areas, rostering reform which will see the extension of health services to evenings and weekends, and a reduction in the dependency on agency staffing. Financial management reform which will allow for improved financial reporting, better use of procurement and increased expenditure control. Investment in digital health, including the HSE Health app, the National Share Care Record and virtual wards. Another area of investment relating to health is disability, and this programme for government commits to advancing the rights and improving the lives of people with disabilities. To progress these priorities, I'm allocating €3.8 billion to the Department of Children, Disability and Equality for disability services in 2026. This includes funding for community-based disability services to ensure people with disabilities receive the right support at the right time in the right place. It will provide permanent and predictable funding and deliver tangible impacts for people with disabilities. Over 9,000 people will receive the residential care they need, including 250 new placements next year. 1,400 young people finishing school will be supported with day services places, along with 50 additional places for older adults. Families waiting for assessments will see progress, with around 6,500 private assessments funded to reduce delays. More than 150,000 hours of home support and personal assistance will help people to live independently in their own homes, and 10,000 overnight and 15,000 day respite sessions will be provided. To drive reform, a dedicated unit has been established in the Department to lead a review of Ireland's disability service model. This unit will work hand in hand with people with disabilities, their families and representative organisations to shape a long-term vision for services out to 2030. Just as we strengthen support for people with disabilities, we're equally committed to delivering systems that support and protect our young people. To make progress in this area, I'm increasing the funding for early years by €125 million in 2026, bringing total investment in early learning and childcare to €1.5 billion. This will fund the National Childcare Scheme, with more than 285,000 children set to benefit from the scheme in 2026, an increase of approximately 35,000 children. Universal early childcare and education, benefiting over 105,000 children in 2026. The access and inclusion model for an increasing cohort of children with disability to access and meaningfully participate in formal childcare. A 10% increase in the capitation rate for AIM Level 7. Year 4 of core funding, with enhancements in Year 5 of the scheme to improve pay for educators and school-aged children practitioners, with the implementation of new employment regulation orders. The Building Blocks Infrastructure Programme will fund extensions of existing community centres and schools to deliver approximately 2,300 additional childcare places. Investment in our child welfare services is also a key priority for this government. This year, €1.3 billion is being provided to TUSLA to provide for foster care, family support services and additional residential care placements. Ireland has one of the strongest education systems in the world, with some of the highest ranking PISA scores for literacy. The programme for government sets out concrete commitments to support our young people. And to begin on delivery on this, the Department of Education and Youth will receive a total of €13.1 billion in 2026. This allocation will provide for 1,717 additional SNAs for students with special educational needs in 2026, the highest number of SNAs we have ever had in our education system at almost 24,900. Along with an increase of 1,042 teacher posts, including 860 additional teachers working across various special educational needs settings, including in mainstream, special classes and special schools. Continued investment in the school transport scheme, bringing 170,000 students to and from school. Additional funding is now being provided to support the implementation of DESH Plus and a new DESH plan, supporting children at risk of educational disadvantage with targeted measures. The planned rollout of the education therapy service that will commence in special schools, providing access to essential therapy services. Additional funding for young people through youth services is being provided, with an increased focus on capital investment. I'm also announcing an increase in the standard capitation rates paid to all schools. This will include, on a per pupil basis, €50 for primary and special schools, from €224 to €274, €20 for post-primary schools, from €386 to €406. In addition to this, the Department's €1.6 billion capital allocation for 2026 will progress the delivery of over 300 school building projects, with the majority of these expected to be completed in 2026 and 2027. Within this, there will be a strong focus on the delivery of additional capacity for approximately 2,800 places for special classes and special schools from the first tranche of projects as well under the Climate Action Work Scheme. It's important to remember that learning doesn't end with childhood. It can be a lifelong journey for us all. And the Department of Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science continues to foster adult learning and the development of the skills and the needs to support our workforce and our enterprise sector. In 2026, the Department will receive an allocation of almost €5 billion. €4.1 billion will allow for increased delivery of apprenticeships to support key infrastructure projects for the economy, the provision of 1,110 new places in key health and social care professions to meet the workforce needs of the health, disability and education sectors, a permanent reduction of €500 in the student contribution fee to support students facing living expenses, and an €810 million capital allocation will fund key infrastructure projects, including the recently established Taoiseach Éireann will be supported to drive excellence in research, attract international research talent and promote knowledge transfer. Student accommodation projects at Maynooth University and University College Dublin. Development and operation of 11 technological university facilities covering 70,000 metres squared and supporting STEM and related disciplines. 2 new veterinary medicine colleges to almost double the number of veterinary graduates. The progression of centres of excellence for retrofit skills, including near-zero energy buildings and the National Demonstration Park for modern methods of construction under Housing for All. By nurturing talent, we can strengthen our nation's competitiveness on the global stage, ensuring that a thriving enterprise sector is at the heart of our economic resilience. At Count Corla, this government is committed to supporting our businesses. I'm allocating €1.3 billion to the Department of Enterprise, Tourism and Employment. This will fund Enterprise Ireland to strengthen its capacity to support Irish businesses in scaling innovation, accessing global markets and creating high-quality, sustainable jobs. The IDA to continue to attract world-class foreign direct investment to our shores, the promotion of regional enterprise development through local enterprise development offices, the establishment of a national artificial intelligence office to provide a focal point for the promotion and adoption of transparent and safe AI in Ireland, and the delivery of action plans on market diversification, competitiveness and productivity. €223 million is also being provided under the Tourism Services Programme, reflecting Government's commitment and recognition of tourism as a vital driver of regional development and employment. This range of supports will enable us to fully capture strategic opportunities and enhance our position as a trading economy on the world stage. We must also cement Ireland's diplomatic presence and place on the world stage. As we witness the horror of the ongoing genocide taking place in Gaza, we must recommit our state to continue to use all our considerable diplomatic resources to support peace in our world. To support the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to do this in 2026, I'm allocating €1.3 billion. This will ensure that Ireland continues to expand our global footprint, with the number of missions abroad reaching 107 next year, boost our official development aid by €30 million in 2026, and support the implementation of Government's action plan on market diversification. Provision has been made in the overall budget ceiling for the requirements of the Presidency of the Council of the European Union. Specific funding allocations on this will be made available in due course. As we enhance our role internationally, it's important also to consider our largest indigenous export sector, the agri-food sector. At the heart of towns and villages across Ireland, agriculture and food production is a cornerstone of our economy. To continue to support this vital sector, I'm allocating €2.3 billion to the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. €85 million in additional funding will more than double the allocation for bovine TB eradication, enabling the rollout of the Bovine TB Action Plan and reducing the risk of outbreaks. Funding for the Acre scheme will increase by €20 million to reach €280 million in 2026, continuing to support over 53,000 farmers. €20 million will allow for the continuation of the National Sheep Welfare Scheme, which assists over 17,000 farmers, and €35 million will be provided to the World Food Programme to support people affected by emergencies, conflict and climate change internationally. Government is committed to continuing to support our fishing communities and aquaculture sector. €7.4 million in increased funding is being provided to Bordís Gawara programmes to support and enable a sustainable Irish seafood sector. Another area where Ireland thrives in the global arena is in culture and sport. For a small country, Ireland offers an extraordinary wealth of talent and entertainment. Our artists, writers and athletes are now leading the way on the world stage, while our media keep us connected to each other and to global stories as they unfold. To build on the progress we've made, the Department of Culture, Communications and Sport will receive an allocation of €1.5 billion in 2026. This provides for a €10.7 million increase in current expenditure for Sport Ireland, €3 million of which will support the establishment of League of Ireland football academies. Ireland has a proud footballing history at both domestic and international level. However, despite the enthusiasm for the game here, our youth development structures have not kept pace with other countries. In addition to rule changes following Brexit means many more young players are staying in our domestic system for longer. This presents us with a responsibility, but also an enormous opportunity to nurture our brightest young talents here at home and provide them with the best environment to fulfil their potential. The investment I'm announcing here today is the start of a multi-annual commitment from this government to focus on grassroots and build a new era for football in our country. I'm also allocating an additional €1.6 million to support inter-county Gaelic Games players and funding to support the Irish Rugby Football Union to strengthen high-performing pathways for women in rugby. The success and achievements of our sporting heroes inspires us all and brings that collective ambition to be better. When our sportsmen and women succeed, our nation rises. The same can be said of our artists. Throughout our history, our arts community and the world-class talent it boasts has ensured Ireland has always been a home of creativity. In recognition of the essential role of arts and artists in our society, the previous government introduced a pilot basic income for the arts scheme, and this government is now committing to deliver a successor scheme to begin next year. In addition to this, I'm allocating €84.9 million for arts and culture in 2026 to provide for increased funding for major projects such as the Crawford Art Gallery. I'm also allocating €433 million to support the completion of the National Broadband Plan, while €5 million in additional funding will strengthen the post office network to enhance its role at the very heart of rural and community life. The 2026 allocation of €357 million to broadcasting will include provision for Shaska Chui Punka Kahar Euro TG Kahar, Lennon Aritzer Made Chui Punka Kahar million euro, Honover Gaelga Archives on Clor de Fosti agus Service the Newark the Nias Lehna Hintu. €65.4 million for TG Kahar, including a €5.4 million increase to ensure high quality Irish language content, children's programming and expanded news services. Support for the continued delivery of the reform and transformation agenda in RTE. Celebrating our culture means celebrating the people living in the towns, the villages and the communities right across our island. This government is committed to supporting vibrant, inclusive and sustainable communities throughout Ireland where people can live, work and connect. We will continue to support the Shared Island Initiative, doubling resources by a further €1 billion out to 2035. In 2026, this will deliver the major Narrow-Water Bridge and Ulster Canal restoration projects will forge ahead. A new Dublin Derry Air Link to commence, enabling regular air travel between the two cities. And there will be programmes to develop the bioeconomy, support green capital investment by firms, grow tourism across our border regions and enable world-leading research collaborations. This important work will allow us to continue to develop consensus around a shared future on our island. This government is committed to supporting vibrant, inclusive and sustainable communities throughout Ireland where people can live and connect. Today I'm allocating €611 million to the Department of Rural Community Development in the Gaeltacht. This funding will support a range of target initiatives. I'm allocating €192 million to rural development and regional affairs in 2026. This includes an increase of €5 million for rural supports and the Rural Regeneration and Development Fund. An increase in the current allocation of €9 million for community development supports brings the total allocation in 2026 to €260 million. This includes €4 million in increased funding for the Community Services Programme, bringing total funding to over €59 million. €3 million in additional capital funding for the Community Centre Investment Fund to support refurbishment grants for community centres, and €3.8 million in increased funding for the Peace Plus programme to support the drawdown of committed cross-border projects in 2026. Tá sé ríhabhata go défaimis na réigiún Gaeltachta Herberts agus a cosins lena cinsú go mé na míl teanga agus cultúr seo abalta fás agus Ferberts. Tá me gledálaigh €150 million don Gaeltacht agus don na Hillan, sin méadú €3 million le haig fiche. San orb sa bhéadú sin, beag €1.5 million in mhaoinú capital de Vonnegar na Nillan, lena rít ar tús a chur leis an obair fiosacán ar an gé ar ina siar. €2 million in mhaoinú capital do Heradú Gaelga agus cultúr, €3.5 million in mhaoinú médaithe de scéim na taithíocht Gaeltachta agus Gaelga. Strong communities thrive when people feel safe, protected and supported. At Ken Corla, everyone who lives in this country should feel safe in their homes and in their communities. With this in mind, I'm announcing €6.17 billion for the Department of Justice, Home Affairs and Migration. This will fund a range of measures, including the recruitment of up to 1,000 trainee Gardaí in 2026, an additional 200 civilian staff, further intakes into the Garda Reserve, and €19 million to increase the budget for Garda overtime. An additional €39 million for the Irish Prison Service to respond to demand trends, an increase of €11 million for the Court Service, over €6.7 million of additional funding for the Irish Probation Service, and additional funding to complete the rollout of local community safety partnerships. €11.5 million of additional funding will provide for domestic and gender-based violence initiatives in 2026, and a further €7.3 million will continue significant progress in youth justice interventions. Further investment will support international protection processing to increase capacity, as well as providing for costs associated with international protection and temporary protection accommodation. In the area of reform, the Court Service will continue its modernisation programme, implementing and rolling out e-probate and a range of other measures to significantly reduce processing timelines and improve the service to the public. Targeted investment through the probation service and youth justice schemes will help to divert young people away from crime, tackle recidivism, and will reduce the need for detention where appropriate. In addition, work will continue to free up Garda numbers to spend less time at administration and more time on the front line and in our communities, in addition to the focus on developing the Garda Reserve. Ireland is committed to safeguarding our national security while contributing to international peace and stability. To support these goals, I am announcing €1.49 billion in funding for the Department of Defence for 2026. This represents an 11% increase and will provide for a net increase of 400 net Defence Force members, the creation of 50 new civilian posts next year, the recruitment of an additional 70 civil servants to work in critically important areas such as cyber security, and a range of non-pay measures including a new Defence Force uniform, equipment and maintenance projects, enhanced recruitment advertising, additional funding to progress maritime security, digital transformation and training and healthcare supports for the Defence Forces. This investment will also enable the progression of ongoing reforms arising from the Commission on the Defence Forces and the Independent Review Group's recommendations. I am also funding a range of infrastructure projects in defence in 2026, including the progression of the military radar programme, procurement of a modern software-defined radio system, rollout of a new general service body armour system for the Defence Forces, the ongoing upgrade of armoured personal carriers, and further modernisation and renovation of military installations throughout the country. At Count Corla, the success of our state and its people over the last 100 years can be seen in our ability to adapt and thrive. For all the challenges we have faced, we have persevered, we have always found a way. Time and again, we have turned uncertainty into opportunity, challenge into success. Budget 2026 is our country's collective step forward towards a fairer, better and more resilient future. We know what our challenges are, and we must now grasp the opportunity to overcome them. We must build a foundation for our future, homes, communities and a country connected by a clear vision of a bigger and brighter future for ourselves and for our children. Is é Sean Boher Carter Tír agus Darnina. This is the right path for our country and our people. I commend this budget to the House.
I now call on the Leader of the Opposition Party Sinn Féin's Minister, Deputy Pearse Doherty.